Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope everyone is doing well. Alhamdulillah, we never had technical difficulties today and we came on live. So we thank Rehan. Are we having any technical difficulties today? Are we good? And all of you who watched the recorded session last week and left some comments and gave me some feedback, I appreciate that. And I told you all that we have an appointment today at 6 o'clock on Wednesday. So whoever is tuning in, I appreciate that as well. And whoever watches this later as a recorded version, please, if you have any suggestions and feedback on what topics we need to address when it comes to family matters, let me know. And inshallah, based on your suggestions and your feedback, we will present something valuable for our families that we can benefit from, inshallah. So I'm not going to make this a quiz here, but I want to ask the audience, take a minute and think about the different topics we have discussed. Just anything you remember from them. What was the first week, second week? How many weeks has it been so far, anyways? Does anyone know that? If you're on Facebook, you can leave comments, and if you're on YouTube watching the recorded version, you can actually leave a comment and say, "Remember you as you remembered whatever you remembered from the last few sessions. Put it there, so everyone can benefit from that. And the more you speak your mind, the more you write something, the more it's preserved, and it can become an action plan for you in your life. So we spoke about what was the first thing we spoke about in the family matters session. The first thing we spoke about was it revolved more around the behavior of the husband and wife and how they should behave in a family and how that reflects the children's upbringing. And so you can watch that episode when it comes to that. The second week we spoke about how children, we have time, we are young, and if our parents are alive, we're so fortunate because there's no replacement for our parents. And the fact that we have time now, we should take full advantage of it and spend time with our parents. And we discussed that in detail, so please watch that and benefit from that. Last week, last week we spoke about how to maintain physically being present with your family members, but at the same time being mentally present, because we've all of us have become masters, especially because of those our long college classes have trained us to be masters at staring someone down but not paying attention to anything that comes out of his mouth. So you're looking at those boring uh, elective classes that we're doing in colleges. I mean, I learned this myself from these classes. You're looking at the professor, looking at the board, but you don't know. At the end of that 2 hour class, if someone asks you what was said, you don't know what was said, even though you're looking directly at that person. So we've become so. This has become our habit now. It's just become our second nature. So we talked about how to make sure that we're physically there and we're mentally there and we're focused, and we put barriers between us and our distractions when we're spending time in our homes for Allah and when we're spending time in our homes with our family. How Maryam alayhi salam she withdrew from her city, but she also, when she withdrew, she put barriers between what distracted her from her worship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So those were three of the previous sessions we discussed. Now, today's session will be something that is not, people don't talk about this too much. And I will, and when I speak to you, I honestly want to just pull some morals and ethics from the Quran and Hadith and just talk about that in a very informal manner and in a way where it's easily digestible and it's easy to bring it into our lives. Small things that make a big difference. Remember, we don't have, Deen doesn't require us to do a lot of work, but Deen has these small tips and ethics. Even in business, sometimes in business we think it's like you have to find that golden egg, that gold dust, and then you can hit the jackpot. That doesn't work like that. Sometimes there's small things you have to do. Just change the backlinks to your website or change the way your SEO is optimized, and next thing you know, it's very small subtle differences, but it makes a difference, right? Similar in our lives, there's small things where we can do that can bring so much more benefit and more value in our lives and our families' lives. So, what is that one small thing that we can change or we can enhance? Some of us are already doing it, we can enhance it. If we're not doing it, we can bring it into our lives. So, in Surah Al Hujurat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lays out different morals and ethics. In the Quran, there are ahkam, there are orders. وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. These are order. You have to do this, right? You have to worship Allah. And there are consequences that are laid out for people who do not follow those orders. What's the ramifications if you do not follow those orders? But and those are measurable. But then there's also moral ethics. You know, when people ask you, should I do this business? When someone asks you that question, should I do this business? A scholar looks at it through the lens of the hukum, like whether it's halal and haram, but also whether it's morally correct or not. And many times in our society, we don't look at the moral aspect of it, the ethics of it. We just look at one aspect, oh, it's okay, and let's go on with it. This happens a lot with our food that we eat, right? We always say halal, haram, just because it's, it's Ahl Kitab, we can eat it. But how about the way the chicken was treated? How about the fact that you threw 100 chicken in a pond, they almost, half of them might have died before they were put on a machine. How these animals are treated, the moral aspect of it. But the moral aspect cannot be gauged, right? وَلَا تَمْشِي فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا is an example. Don't walk on the face of the earth with pride and arrogance. How can you gauge how much pride or how less pride a person has? But morals and ethics is what defines the humankind. It is what beautifies somebody, right? ليس ليس الجمال بأثواب تزيننا إن الجمال جمال العلم والأدب. Beauty is not defined by the clothes that we adorn ourselves with, by the luxuries that we benefit from, our homes and our cars. Beauty is not defined by that. Beauty is defined by our etiquettes, our morals, our ethics, and how much knowledge we have. Today, there's a lot of beautiful faces with rotten personalities, and in spite, that's why there's a spike in so many disagreements, separations. So this is today. The ayah that I have chosen is from Surah Hujurat. Not even an ayah, just a few words from Surah Hujurat. Surah Hujurat is filled with, if for all of us in our own research, inshallah, and I think in a Ramadan immersion program, that is the surah that's been given to me. So all of us that are watching, please sign up for the Ramadan immersion program. It's going to be beautiful. We will stay focused in the month of Ramadan. It's just 1 hour classes every day, free for everybody. And I think that the Miftaah team is requested me to do Surah Hujurat tafsir in this Ramadan immersion program. So you can follow along with us, and inshallah we can do the whole Surah Hujurat, and it's very beneficial for us. From that surah, there is a section where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, لا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب. Do not mock each other and do not call each other by bad nicknames, by evil nicknames. Do not mock each other and do not call each other by bad nicknames. Okay, so how is that relevant today? To explain how relevant this is, I have to explain to you the opposite spectrum of this. The opposite spectrum of this starts at the birth of our children. The first sunnah, before the child is even born, and the moment the child is born, one of the first sunnahs that we are responsible for as parents is to give a good name to our child. Have you ever thought that why is this even a sunnah? Why is there so much emphasis on a good name? And we see this is not something that began at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but this is something that was already there in the Arab culture before. And the Prophet ﷺ loved it and he enhanced it and he encouraged it. And anytime he would see someone that had a bad name, he would change their name. So why was that something so prevalent, and why was that something the Prophet ﷺ loved, and why are we still doing that till today? So, and again, I'm not talking about names. This is a small introduction to what I want to say to you. And the people who don't have children, this is something you can take. So we have Abu Talib. Abu Talib is the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. He had 4 boys. Look how he named all 4 of his boys. The first boy, he named him Talib. Talib, a person who is always seeking a higher level. He's always a seeker. He's not content with where he is in life. The second son, he named him Aqil. Aqil is a person who is of higher intellect, from aql, higher intellect. Please follow along with me with these names and why they're so relevant. Aqil, higher intellect. The third one he named Ja'far. Ja'far means a person of higher eloquence. Person who speaks with eloquence is Ja'far. The last one he named was Ali. Ali means a person of higher nobility. He had daughters. His daughter he named Fakhita. Fakhita is that bird who spreads its wings more than the other birds, so it has a higher pace and it stands out among the flock of birds. So he named her Fakhita. And the other one, he named her Jummana. Jummana is this the precious gem, Jummana. And the third one, he named Raita. Raita means Raita is for the last. It's for like when you have precious inventory that people really want, like which is like a toilet paper nowadays in our shelves or whatever it may be. The last one on the shelf, it's named Raita, whatever it is. But when it's precious, when people need it, the last of that inventory is called Raita. Now, this is interesting, right? So why was this naming process such a rigorous process? Because when he came home and he changed the name of Ali, when the Prophet ﷺ came home and he found out that Ali Allah had a son, and the first one he named him Harb, war, battle, he changed it to Hassan, beautiful, a person of ihsan. Then he had the second son and he named him Hussein. And he says, no, 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 change it. He named him Harab first, battle. And he said, change it to Hussein. You know, the one who has the smaller version of Hassan, the younger brother of Hassan. Why was this such an act that was so beloved to the Prophet ﷺ? And why is this such an act that even Umar ibn Khattab anhu, when he was asked by that father, by that son who came to the Umar Khattab anhu, and after his father complained about him that this he always disrespects me and he does this, he does that, and Umar Khattab was furious about the son. Why are you doing this with your father? He's an old man. So the son asked the question: is there some rights my father has upon me that he has to fulfill for me as well? And Umar Khattab anhu laid out a few rights. The first one he laid out was, it's your father's responsibility to choose a good mother. Before you were even born, the first responsibility or first right he has upon you is that he should not have looked and searched for a woman based on just dunya, but based on deen, a person, a girl or a female who could become a good mother. So today, when we look at, when we look at our future spouses, we should also see, is this man gonna be a good father? Is she gonna be a good mother? That's something you look at. That's what Umar Khattab anhu is said. The second one, he said, is that he has a right upon you to name you a good name. That's a right. That's your right to name you a good name. And the third one is to make sure he puts you in a place, in a situation where you can learn the ilm of deen. So nonetheless, why is naming a child a good name so important? And I tell you this because now, what are you gonna do now if you don't have a good name and our parents just Googled it or called and something sounded amazing, just named us? We're gonna go change our names? No. The reason why naming is so important in a good name is so that this child could aspire to develop that quality. It's the quality it is the quality of the name that you're pushing that child to aspire to get. That's the quality. Like how the Prophet ﷺ, he never changed Abu Bakr's name, but he gave him a nickname, Siddiq. Subhanallah, the truthful one. Now that was with him all his life now, and he aspired to get that. I mean, this is so this giving a good name or a nickname so that you can aspire to become that person, giving that quality. Today in our homes, we know that as educators, sometimes our children are home right now, we get frustrated, or our wives or husbands are home, and we tend to say bad names. Oh, get over here, you stupid kid. What's wrong with you? That kid. And sometimes we even say things like, that kid is much more smart than you. We might not say stupid and dumb, but we say, oh, my neighbor, that your friend, that kid, look, he's going to med school. Look at you. Oh, look at that kid. He got A's in his class. Look at you. And we have this very demeaning personality. And yes, our kid. Come on, you can ask me. We have three sons in my house. He can't keep nothing clean. I look at my iPad, my pencil, like this is gone. This thing is broken. Yeah, my iPad keyboard is broken. I mean, it's hard to keep anything functional in a house, especially when you have two, three kids. If they're boys, forget it, compounds the problem. But when you're sitting there, when things are messing up all around you, sometimes you should just sit down and say, how we react is we just get up. Sometimes I'm just like, already frustrated. We get out of our bed frustrated, like, oh my God, this is dirty, that's dirty, this is broken, that's broken. And then we start to say things that are mean that we don't mean. We didn't mean to say it. We're mothers, we're fathers. We didn't mean to say that way. I mean, sometimes we even regret later on. But instead of focusing on that, on the negativity that's happening, the wall that's broken or the clothes that are messed up, just think for 1 second in that moment, think and just have this sense of gratitude that at least my sons, my children have feet that they can play with. They have hands that they can break a wall with. They could see. That's what they're playing. That, I mean, think of that. That's home. How many parents are there in the world? They would wish that their children could get up and move and break the wall. They wish that they could, run around, make noise and make mess. We get, oh, my kids make. How many parents in the world have children who cannot speak, who cannot see, who cannot hear, who cannot move, who are paralyzed? So in that moment, just be grateful, right? But that's why this is so important that you instead of saying those negative words with our spouses, with our children, let's develop this quality. Listen, and I don't know how much time do I have left. 5, 10 minutes, Ron? Keep going. Honestly, I don't want to lose track of time because people have precious. We have people's time is precious. So when I was young, why is this so close to my heart? This naming thing and aspiring. Once you give this person a good name or a good quality to aspire to. Like, when's the last time we went up to our kids and said, I did this with my sons a few times, and I want to do it more. Like one time I came in the room at nighttime. I sat with my son Muad, and I said to Muad, you have a good heart. When someone says you have a good heart, this is just a tip. So the children are watching. If your parents do this, this is what it means. When you have nothing else to say about someone who's good, you just say this guy has a good heart, and it works all the time. Because especially when marriage proposals, yeah, he's doing, but he has a good heart. Because you can't really tell, right? You just say he has a good heart. That's the last thing. But my son Muad is, make dua. He's amazing kid. I love him. But this kid can create a mess, And so I said, Muad, you have a good heart. And then I said to Yusuf, you're very caring. They slept with this thought. Abuji, what does caring mean? What does good heart mean? And I said to him, good heart means that you do this. And caring means that you let someone else eat before you eat, and you pick up the food after, pick up the plates on the table afterwards. You care about people around you. And now, next thing you know, you start seeing that quality in their life. It might just take you for a few hours, but you got them thinking. When I was a kid, I was probably 9 years old. I remember I had a bag of chips, and I was eating it was a boarding school I used to study, and I was eating the bag of chips. And those students who have studied in a boarding school know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a small bag of chips, and there was like 2, 3 guys sitting around me. And our upbringing was that if you're eating, it doesn't look nice if 2, 3 people are sitting next to you and they're not eating. So what I did was I opened the bag of chips up, and I laid it down like this. And now 3, 4 people started eating with me. So we all probably got like 3, 4, chips. That's all we did from that because it was a small little 50-cent chip bag from the vending machine. Now, every day in the break time, I would do that. Just get a bag of chips, open it up, everyone would start eating. One teacher from our school, who was not even my teacher, was walking by one day, and he said something in Urdu. Ye to hatim ta'i hai. I didn't even understand what he said. He just made a comment. Ye to hatim ta'i hai. And basically, what that means, this is hatim ta'i. I didn't know what hatim ta'i meant. I thought maybe he was like getting mad at me. I had no idea what it meant. So then I asked some of the senior students, this person, he wasn't my teacher, he was a teacher of another class. So this person said to me that I'm Hatim Ta'i. What does that mean? And they said, oh, Hatim Ta'i is the father of Adi bin Hatim. Adi is a Sahabi. And his father and the Prophet loved Adi because of his lineage, and he was a son of Hatim Ta'i. And in the Arab world, until this day, someone who's known for his generosity, they say he's as generous as Hatim Ta'i. Someone who's as generous person, you say he's like Hatim Ta'i. And so that teacher saw me, and he just said that about me. Honestly, it just struck a chord with me for the rest of my life. I just wanted to make sure I maintained that. And I always wanted to be the Hatim Ta'i in the room. Like the most generous person in the room, I wanted to be that person. Whether it's with my bag of chips, even we would share a Pepsi can with everybody. Go to the restaurant, I want to be the one who's paying for it. I mean, it just became something, and my favorite personality became Hatim Tai. Learned everything about him and his son and his family, and it became something I wanted to live up to. Let's do that with our kids. You never know. One comment we pass, just one thing. Allama Dahibi rahimahullah, was not, he was one of the greatest muhaddith to ever walk on the face of the earth. And he was not, his mind was not focused on ilm. His mind was going from here to here, like many of our kids are not focused. He was like one of those youngsters. One mentor of his looked at his writing and he said, your writing is like the writing of muhaddithin. Your writing. I mean, he could not choose anything else to compliment him for, except for the fact that he said, your writing is like the writing of muhaddithin. That's all he said. Allama Dahir said, if my writing is like, that's beautiful, my writing is like muhaddithin. And muhaddithin were like people that you want to live up to. They were like the superstars. You know, today we have like, oh yeah, these cartoon characters or, you know, Marvel characters. They were the superstars. Muhaddithin. Like, I want to be like those guys. And imagine that person saying to you that your writing is like the writing of muhaddithin. Boom. Then he just left everything, became focused, and he became one of the greatest muhaddith of all time just by one attributing something of his to a good quality. Let's do that with our kids. So the Prophet ﷺ, he did that with the Sahaba. For example, he gave a quality of Siddiq to Abu Bakr anhu, truthful. He gave al-Faruq to Umar bin Khattab anhu, the one who distinguished the distinction between haqq and batil. They lived up to it then. Like when you think of Umar, you think of al-Faruq. When you think of Abu Bakr, you think of Siddiq. He gave Uthman anhu dhul Nurayn, right? Look, even his daughter Fatima al-Zahra, al-Batul, al-Zahra, a person with a radiant face. Batul, a person who's a person who takes out time and focuses in their attention to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tahira, he would give these nicknames that had these signifying, defining qualities by which and through which those people would live the rest of their lives. And this is something in hadith as well. The Prophet said once that a person, ما لا يزال عبد فإن الصدق عليكم بالصدق فإن الصدق يهدي إلى البر وما يزال الرجل يصدق حتى يكتب عند الله صديقا أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. That a person, he said you should always speak the truth because this truth leads you to goodness. وإن البر يهدي إلى الجنة, and goodness and piety leads you to Jannah. And he says a person continuously speaks the truth till he in the books of Allah is written amongst those who are truthful, Siddiq. So many times the Prophet said, if you have this quality, you'll be named in the books of Allah as Sabir. If you have this quality, you'll be named in the books of Allah as Shakir. Like those, then you want that because you want that quality. So with our children, with our families, in our homes, let's start living by those standards, you know? Our standard should not be A's and grades only. Our standard should not be only did they pick up the dishes, did they do this and do that, did they, you know, are they getting into med school? No, we're living at home. In our homes, we should all have our children, look everyone you can find a good quality in. Yeah. عسى أن تكرهوا شيئا وهو خير لكم وعسى أن تحبوا شيئا وهو شر لكم. Right? That there's things that we may not like, but there might be something that's good in it. So we look for the goodness, the good qualities in our children, in our families, and we start calling them with a low tone. لا تلمزوا أنفسكم ولا تنابزوا بالألقاب. Do not mock each other. Even siblings, inshallah, I'll talk about this sibling issue next week. So stay tuned we're going to have a lengthy discussion about the children and their interaction with each other, because that is another whole topic. But even among ourselves, this is the hukm of Allah. Do not mock each other and do not say bad names, bad nicknames. Sometimes you don't have to say it, but by your physical demeanor, the other person gets what you're saying. Like your wife asks you something and you just shrug her off. It makes her seem like you're mocking her, or the fact that the way you're reacting is that she doesn't know she doesn't have knowledge to talk about this. So now you're putting her down. Instead of that, there's a better way of talking about it. Yes, not everyone is a polymath. They know everything about everything. But the Prophet ﷺ had a beautiful way of making sure everyone felt welcomed, everyone felt appreciated, and everybody had their own defining qualities that they would live up to. So with our children, with our family, in our homes, let's start talking like that. Let's not always have this harsh tone. Let's give our kids these any good quality we see in them, give them these qualities, names, these good names of nicknames, you can say, right? That are based on qualities. Yeah, I said this. When did I say this? I said this recently, where I went to a hospital once when one of our friends had a child, and man, I walked into the hospital. It was one day after the child was born, and my one of my he was our community member, and he says, Mufti Saab, Sheikh Saab, come, I want to, Dr. Saab se milte hain, Dr. Saab se milte hain. Let's meet Dr. Saab, let's meet Dr. Saab. And I was like, okay, I mean, maybe the doctor in this hospital knows me or I know him, so he wants to introduce me to the doctor, or he wants to see me. So he said, Dr. Saab se milen, Dr. Saab se milen at least 10 times. Let's meet Dr. Saab, let's meet Dr. Saab. When we finally get to the room where the child was, he brings the child out, 1 day old baby, cute kid, and he puts him in my arms and he says, Dr. Saab se milen, meet Dr. Saab. So he already gave this defining quality of doctor to this boy who's 1 day old. And I looked at him, I said, man, oh, good, that's a good thing. But there's, if there's other qualities in the world that you could have made your child, you could have labeled your child with, and hoped and made dua and prayed that your child, that would have struck a chord in their mind. And trust me, as our children, they're innocent in their minds. If you put in their mind, talk about generosity, talk about caring, talk about sympathy, talk about these qualities, and give them this name, they will start living up to it. You will see miracles happening in your house and the way their behavior transforms. So Allah make us among those who understand this concept of having these good qualities that we aspire to develop, and naming our children, naming ourselves, and not being the one who gets frustrated and just says bad names or bad words, or shows this very negative attitude that our children sometimes think that we don't even love them, or our spouses think that we don't even love, even though we do, but it's just the way we're reacting. It becomes the sort of the unwanted or unmentioned message that's in the air. It's like unspoken of the elephant that's in the room that maybe I don't know. And I heard kids, I don't think my mom loves me. I don't think I don't see that same love in a spouse. It's because we are not, we're not saying those beautiful things, those beautiful words. There's a balance, of course, of not just keep on spoiling our kids. We have to help them. We have to take care of them, but definitely saying those beautiful words. Saying a sweet word with our sweet tongue can make a huge difference. Jazakallah khair for tuning in. Hopefully you all benefited. If you have anything else, suggestions of what we should talk about, how we should make our family um, uh, lifestyle and family environment better at our homes, let us know. Inshallah, we will dedicate one session of how we could make our homes like masjids in the month of Ramadan, because most of us, wherever we are in the world, we will not be blessed to be going to the masjid for Taraweeh and enjoying the flavors of Ramadan, the euphoric environment of Ramadan in the masjid. So how do we, mimic that and develop that in our homes? We will discuss that as well. But anything else, any you people have suggestions, please send it our ways. Jazakallah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.